Hey everybody, welcome to Old Roommates. Today on the show, we revisit the Disney classic, The Little Mermaid. So grab your thingamabobs and join us under the sea.
Hey everyone, it is Old Roommates, the only podcast that revisits pop culture through a middle-aged lens. This is Christina.
And this is Brian, and we are social distancing in Christina's home. We hope everyone's staying safe and wearing masks and all that stuff. We are today talking about The Little Mermaid. We have had so many requests for this, and we were just saying before we started recording that we love requests, and at the same time it's a little nerve-wracking because people are requesting it and then we watch it and it's like, oh god, what if we don't love it as much as we used to? Or what if we never loved it to begin with? And then would people be hurt that we take the request but then trash the movie?
Although I think so, yeah, and I do get a little nervous about that because that has happened to me, just revisiting movies that I really like and kind of feeling badly about it afterwards. But I would like to think that if people are listening to us and are sort of faithful listeners, they understand that their request is, it's going to be honestly reviewed and revisited. Yeah. And I also like to think that we're pretty respectful.
Really?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I guess maybe not always respectful, but at least honest.
Yeah. But here we are.
That's the important thing, right? Being
here
honest.
With The Little Mermaid. Honesty is, you know what? Honesty is the best policy.
I would say it's at least mostly the best.
I just made that up.
That's pretty good.
So if you
should write that down.
That I am proud of myself.
You heard it here first, folks. Honesty is the best.
Honesty is the best policy.
Did I say honesty or honestly?
I don't know.
Whatever it is.
All right, so The Little Mermaid is 1989.
Yes, I just looked it up. It's 89.
And this movie is credited with really bringing back the Disney princess musical idea. Or really just Disney animation, because it had a weird sort of ride there. I think in the 80s with just some movies that maybe didn't do so well or didn't take so well. I think there were maybe with the Aristocrats Down Under was a success, but then it sort of had this lull. But so 1989, Christina, do you remember the first time you saw The Little Mermaid?
So what's funny is, obviously 89, I wasn't a child. I didn't watch it as a child. And at that point, I didn't have a child. I was, 22 or something like that. And I think...
Well, at least none that you know about.
Not that I know about, exactly. We're waiting for a knock at the door at any minute. But... I worked at the video store, and I was thinking about this. I was trying to think, when was the first time I watched it? I'm pretty sure it was when I worked at the video store. And it came out, and I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. So, and you have the TV. You've talked about this. You have the TV for everybody to watch, sort of a thing. So I threw it in there, and I would have it in there because it was a nice movie to have. It was nice music and things like that. But honestly, I don't even remember if I sat down and watched it from beginning to end. And I was realizing this last night as I was watching it, as I was rewatching it. I'm like, I don't think I ever really sat down.
You saw it in order,
beginning to end. I knew the songs. I knew a lot of the scenes. I knew the story and the characters and things like that. But I didn't either that or I didn't remember a lot of it because it wasn't something that I would have sought out to just watch. And even when I first watched it, I wasn't a huge fan of just the story of it and the depiction of women.
I've never thrown someone out of their own house before, but just
I
get
you
up.
love this. I know you love this movie so much. You love this movie so much. But I remember it just watching it and realizing, like, it's not a great depiction of women, and it's not necessarily a great role model. So even after I had Emily, she wasn't a huge movie person anyway, but it is not something that I would have had her really. Not that I would have.
That's
been like,
totally that's fair.
It wouldn't have been like no, it wasn't banned from my household or anything like that. But it wouldn't have been something that I would have gone out to say, oh, let's buy Little Mermaid and watch this. Because I just So
I
that's that.
Completely am absorbing and hearing and agreeing with just what everything you're saying. Here's what's really funny for me. Christina, the first time I watched this movie, was at the video store.
Oh my god!
And it was one of those things where it was just playing and playing for hours.
Yeah.
And I found myself probably by the third thing singing along to the songs. I'm like,
the music.
And I said to myself, I should probably actually watch this movie. And I brought the VHS tape home. And it was, God knows, it was probably a Friday night or a Saturday night. And I brought it home and watched it. If I watched it at like 10 o'clock at night or something. And I remember absolutely loving it. However, to your point, even back then, this was probably 1990 at that point, like, thinking at the end of this movie was a bit dissatisfying, even back then, because Ariel is 16, and we're gonna go into now, but this is truly then how I was feeling, and remember at the end, this I can never shake this. All of those little squirgly souls, the poor unfortunate souls, turned into mer people again.
Yes.
In that group were probably some of Ariel's beloved friends and relatives and all this kind of stuff.
Sure.
It also known as, that's a lot of friggin' mer people. Who's to say she couldn't find someone she really liked then and just have this little hobby of human life there in her little cavern? Like, she's really just selling herself short. She's 16.
Yeah.
And she's saying goodbye to her entire family forever. So I really struggled with the ending even back then. Let's dive in.
To that point, I actually wrote down, she chooses a man over her sisters and family.
Yeah.
And she, consciously does that. She's like, I'm never going to see my sisters and family.
She says it out loud.
Okay. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I get that you're mad at your father, but, your sisters, your friends, and your family, and then she loses her voice. She gambles her voice.
Yeah.
All for a man that she doesn't even know.
No.
She never even had a conversation.
She looked at him and she said, he's beautiful. So there is a sexual... we're going to get to this. There's a sexualized... physical appreciation that is not, to your point, it's not based on anything personality driven.
They never had a conversation.
No.
He never had a conversation with her.
But to be fair, I didn't have that insight in 1990 or 1989 or whatever. That is something that has definitely hit me this time around. But,
Same.
Yeah. But
Same.
It's you're exactly right. This is based on physical appearance, finding someone beautiful. And I actually was blown away. Because I didn't remember that when she looked at him, she's like, he's beautiful. And I was like, that's just so interesting. Because, he is, an American, sort of imagining American, like a young, healthy American male, very attractive cartoon. And... she calls him beautiful for a man, and I thought it was. I
noticed that this time around too. I was like, "Wow, that's really cool."
She is not the word is not sexualizing. What's the word I'm thinking of? Romanticizing, based on appearance,
just on his.
And that's not usually something women are allowed to do in film. Certainly not animated characters. And
you would never call him beautiful.
You would never say beautiful.
You'd say handsome.
You'd say handsome.
Yeah.
I was really that actually impressed me. However, she is still a 16-year-old mermaid who should not be making such grand decisions.
Right. Clearly her decisions, her decision-making is poor.
She put the entire ocean in jeopardy.
Yeah. She's not a great role model. And again, to your point before, I didn't I didn't realize all of that back then either. But what really stood out to me back then was the fact that she gave up her voice. And that symbolism of the girl not needing a voice to get, to be in a relationship.
Oh.
That pissed me off. That was the number one thing that really pissed me off about the whole movie.
Then.
That was the one thing that really made me upset then. And I was right in that, like, I don't know, I was in a sort of feminist kind of stage in my life, I think, being in early 20s and just being like, I am woman.
Is this not the same year as When Harry Met Sally?
That's probably
like
the
you
same.
didn't even want them to get together.
Right,
Is that
exactly.
female independent thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just like, I was really shocked because, I mean, obviously there was like such a huge reaction to this movie and everybody loved it. And even now, it's still, like, I'm a teacher and I talk, kids are still our Ariel for Halloween.
It's beloved.
They still, I mean, it's long-lasting love for this movie.
Yeah. Well, they just, NBC, I think it's NBC, they just did that live staged version with Queen Latifah.
We saw some of that. I couldn't even stomach it.
Yeah.
Queen Latifah was the
only highlight.
Only highlight.
Yeah, same here.
And even Emily was just like, "Oh, this is horrible." And she's like a drama.
You just shouldn't do. If you can't do it, if you're not going to do it right, don't. It's a lot of effort. Just don't do it.
Yeah. But anyway, getting back to the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, and now I feel the same way as you. Basically shocked that she's going to give up her entire life and no longer be with sisters and family just to be with this man that she just thinks is beautiful.
Yeah, truly.
That's it. She's giving up everything. She's becoming human.
Yeah.
She
doesn't even know how to use a fork.
She doesn't even know what a fork is.
Yeah.
She doesn't even know the name of fork. It's just a bit hard to swallow, but it is a Disney fantasy.
Yeah.
So we have to let a lot of that go. One of the first things that surprised me, so it's interesting because now I do see a lot of these Disney movies, in a lot of like the Pixar stuff, and obviously the technology has come a long way since then. And I have to say, when I first started watching this movie, I was not impressed with the animation. And I was surprised. I was like, because, and maybe I might be confusing it with Finding Nemo, but I remember seeing like a documentary and how they studied fish and how they move and all this kind of stuff. I'm pretty sure, after thinking about it, I'm pretty sure it was Finding Nemo. But I was expecting to be blown away by the animation. And I really wasn't. I was like, wow, that's so.
But putting
strange.
yourself back into like an 1989 perspective, I really appreciated the like hand drawn elements and back then.
Or now.
Oh, okay. No, now too. I do think Ariel's face didn't quite. It looked different in certain scenes, but I think that's when you get into that hand drawn thing and like. I mean, just things look different. But I liked a lot of the underwater stuff, and I liked the flowers that would, like, during the opening credits, when, like, the fish would swim by and the flowers would close up and then slowly open again. It was,
I liked the underwater stuff.
Yeah.
I did like the movement of her swimming. What kind of fell short for me, and I think, so... I struggle a little bit because I have such high standards for Disney. And I always remembered watching something like Sleeping Beauty and Snow White and how they had such detail to the background and like shadows. Like you always saw the shadow in a scene, and that's what really brought it to life.
Yeah.
And you didn't see, it was very much one-dimensional when I was watching this last night, and I think it's because of the high standards I had. I was looking like, where are the shadows?
Really quick, just to be clear, so you could watch, say, Snow White or Cinderella, whatever, now, and still be impressed with how the animation was then.
Yes.
Okay. All right,
yes. I mean, and I have not recently, but within the last 10
Only
years.
because we have been criticized in the past
What?
that we have been criticized in the past that
I
we
don't believe it.
sometimes forget the standards and capabilities
Well,
of filmmaking then.
right, but I think, so honestly, if we're going to go into this, if you watched Sleeping Beauty today,
Yeah.
I think you would be very impressed
Yeah.
with the animation. And it was a completely different technique. It
Yeah.
was all hand-drawn and everything else. When you're watching something like Frozen today, super impressive. But
Yeah.
of course, that's all computer generated.
Yeah.
I think Little Mermaid falls in the middle.
Yeah.
It falls in the middle, and it's not strong either way.
Okay.
I think it gets muddled because it's in the middle of the two.
I really loved the scene where, in terms of the quality of animation, like when Sebastian is in the chef's kitchen and you have all like the chopped up fish on the side in the background, because you do have the shadows. Maybe part of the issue is that it's underwater, and so there isn't many shadows.
That could definitely be part of it. And I mean, they
Or
had the
shadowing
bubbles in
and
the
darkness
background.
and light.
And again,
Yeah.
it's good. I'm not
Yeah,
saying it's
yeah.
like shitty. It's
Yeah.
good. It just didn't live up to my standards of what I was expecting.
Sure.
And remember, the first scene isn't underwater. The first scene is on the boat. You know, and that was when I was
True.
like, what the hell's happening? And there were no shadows.
That's
I'm
fair.
telling you, I
Yeah,
was
that's
looking-
fair. Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, maybe it was underplayed because they want to have more sort of dramatic effect when you go underwater. I mean, there could have
Yeah.
been some sort of thing going on there.
Will always love, in terms of also another animation that I did like, is the emergence of Ursula down from her perch or whatever. Because
Oh,
you just
she's
realize
so
how big she
good.
is. Like she seems very like sly and slithery, and then
Yeah.
suddenly she like emerges off of her perch, and she's just like this giant sea monster. I mean,
She
it's
was
cool.
awesome.
It's so cool.
She was definitely the highlight of this movie for me. She was fantastic.
I want to quickly talk, just real quick. So I watched this on what did I call it? The Platinum Edition DVD.
Yes.
I will tell you, there were 6 previews, which I forgot
Oh my
was a
gosh.
thing. I forgot that was a thing in Disney movies. Remember, like when you would
Yeah,
rent a
there was
movie?
one on the DVD I had.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
6.
forget which one it was,
I had
but-
6. And then
That's a lot.
for this platinum version, I struggled a lot with the audio of Gimby, the guy with the English lawyer kind of looking guy.
Isn't it Grimsby?
Grimsby? Oh, Grimby. It's Grimby.
There's no S in that? I'm looking it up.
And so it begins. I'm pretty sure it's Grimby. But then, and then Sebastian. There were a few times I struggled understanding what Sebastian said with the audio. But, I mean, everyone else, even Flotsam and Jetsam, who are like...
They were great. You could understand everything.
I understood everything, even on this, like, sort of weird audio thing I had. So let's dive into now, which I think we kind of are.
I'm sort of talking, yeah.
Yeah. I actually don't have that many notes. I will say that there is in the animation, there is one thing that really surprised me, is that there is a hyper a hyper display of is it Grimsby?
Yes.
It's Grimsby?
Grimsby.
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 What kind of name is Grimsby?
I don't know.
I like Grimsby
You can
better.
ask Ben Wright. He's the one that played him.
So, but everyone is hot. Like, everyone is muscular, fit, except Ursula, which I guess is why, and then she's like the villain, I guess. So, but it's like Ariel is like writhing on the sand with her hair all over the place. And Carl and I were watching this, and Carl's like, it's like, this is a little sexual.
I thought it was very sexual, too.
I never felt that before. I didn't feel that way before.
No,
And by the way, to the point where I'm like, Triton is hot. Like, Triton is a daddy. I mean,
Yeah.
he is like a bearded, what, Christina? Like a bearded, muscular, he's hot. And he's tan.
He's
tan. He's
got
really
the power.
Yeah, it's weird. And then
Yeah.
but I certainly.
Although the sisters weren't that. The sisters were a little like ugly
quirky.
sisters.
They're a little like quirky, goofy.
Yeah, a little goofy-ish.
But then but remember too, like so many of the with Ursula and the Poor Unfortunate Souls, like she's like, you know, and what they show, the Poor Unfortunate Soul is overweight.
Yes.
And it's like, and I help them. And it's like, fling! And he's like this muscular, jacked. So my point is, like, there is, in 1989, there was an awareness of, like, and I mean hyper-muscular.
Yes.
They look like exotic dancers.
Yes.
Both sexes. And it's like, and even Eric has, like, these, like, very, like, he has, like, the open shirt, and it's, like, awfully muscular characters. And Ariel,
why they did it that way. It's interesting. Because I don't remember any other Disney movie that is like that.
Because honestly, if you're swimming that much, you're going to be fit. But I don't think you're going to be as fit as Triton. God. What is he? What?
Well, is like kind of a god, too, isn't he?
Yeah, so you don't think he had to work for that?
Probably not. He had that magic stick.
That's so not fair.
Muscular body.
But that was my big takeaway from this whole excursion.
Yeah,
it was like,
the sexuality.
Everyone's hot.
Everyone was hot.
Looks like...
Well, and again, in what you said before, too, was that's the first thing she notices about him. So it's all about surface beauty. The whole movie is all about just superficial beauty.
Surface beauty.
You like that?
Like the surface.
Like, oh yeah, like, well, but even below the surface.
Even below the surface.
So are we supposed to assume mermaids are deeper?
I don't.
Than humans?
Well done.
Thanks.
We need to do so much with that. I do think it was funny when Ursula is, like, shaking her boobs to the camera. Oh my God, I know! Oh, it's so weird. It is weird.
There's a lot of that.
This is G, and it's very sexual. If you have not seen this movie in a while, and I was sober,
I think this is one of those things. I mean, honestly, like, and again, I don't remember another Disney movie being like this, but remember, like, when we watched it, we didn't notice it. And now, I think everyone is super aware of that sort of thing.
And the images we're putting onto children.
Yes. I mean, even, like, if you look at, like, the princesses now as opposed to then, there's not a lot of that cleavage. Mm-hmm. Like, there used to be a lot of cleavage. Mm-hmm. I mean, did you see, I mean, her little, I mean, she had those little tiny itty-bitty shells.
Really quick. Scuttle, the seagull.
Yeah.
When she becomes a human, she gets the legs, right? And she's in the water. She can't stand. She falls in the water.
Right.
Scuttle lands on her leg.
Yeah.
Do you remember this dialogue? He looks at her and he's like, something's different. And he looks at her chest and he's like, new shells? I'm like, she's 16.
That. I did see that, yeah.
And I'm like, someone wrote that. Mm-hmm. Someone drew it. And someone said, yeah, this is appropriate for a seagull to be commenting on a 16-year-old's breasts.
Right.
That's messed up.
It is. But I think we're more, like, I think
we're more
aware of it now.
This is why now. This is to be very clear. We're talking about now.
Yes.
Because honest and truly, it's a sign of the times, to your point.
Definitely.
Because if you imagine 1989, 1990, I'm, 17 years old? So I'm going to be, like, a bit more hyper... like, thinking a bit more hypersexually as a 17-year-old, hormonal, like, you know, right? Than a 48-year-old. Like, it's like, I'm not going to be like, I'm not looking for, like, let me find the dirty parts of Disney movies.
And here's the difference right here. I can tell you right now what the difference is. Back then, a cartoon was a cartoon.
Yeah, because it was
now, it's like you can't even have a stick figure with, like, the legs are too long. Oh no! Yeah. Like we're so hypersensitive now. Like, I think back then you wouldn't even have thought about a cartoon in that way. You just wouldn't have.
Yeah.
It's a cartoon.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Betty Boop, for God's sakes.
Right.
Do you think how would Betty Boop fare if it just came out today?
Yeah.
Be like, oh, there's a prostitute. She probably does drugs and. It's crazy. Another thing I noticed, and again, all my notes are sexual, but the Ursula. What else is new?
When Ursula is talking to Triton, when the big, right before the big showdown happens, when Triton is really frustrated with Ursula, she walks up and she's like, "King Triton, ha ha ha." She strokes his staff that he walks around with. Boy. No, that's what it's called.
No, it's not a staff. It's something else.
Okay. Oh, Christina's looking it up just to prove me wrong.
No, it's
but
not.
Does everyone know what I'm talking about? Everyone knows what I'm talking about, Christina.
I don't know.
And you know what I'm talking about right now.
Yeah, because you just stroked a staff in front of me. It's not. No, it has like a name, and you're going to be like, "Oh, that's right."
But the thing is, the story is that allegedly they're brother and sister.
I thought so, and I was waiting for her to say she was the sister, but
because she said she used to live in the castle.
Yes, but I was waiting for that line that I'm like, isn't she his sister?
Yeah.
She never says it. So how do we know that they're sister and
brother? Maybe they're stepbrother and sister.
But was that like it's based on Hans Christian Andersen. It must say it in that book.
Yeah.
Because somehow I knew that they were sister and brother, and I don't know. It didn't.
I noticed it this time around. I noticed her saying, "When I lived in the castle." By the way, you must know this one. Original choice for Ursula.
I don't know.
B. Arthur. B.
Oh
Arthur.
My God, she would have been so good.
Here's the story. So she was already part of the Disney
family. Can I just say one thing before you go on to your B. Arthur story that I can take forever? It's called a trident. See, that's... Why are you looking at me like you didn't know that?
Christina, I just can't stand you sometimes.
Well, it's an important... No, because like if you wanted it for...
That whole point was to prove me wrong. How do you feel right now?
I feel great.
That whole exercise was to be like, Brian's wrong. That's why you did that.
No, in my defense, it was more about me being right than you being
All right, so... B. Arthur. So here's the story. So she was already part of the Disney family because of Golden Girls, because it's done Buena Vista. Television is Disney.
Okay.
So allegedly the story is they're like, we already have B. Arthur because she's part of us. She's part of Disney. So we're going to reach out to her. She'll be Ursula because she does Broadway. She does show tunes and the whole thing.
She's so good.
They reached out to her. They got her assistant or something, her agent, her people, right?
Yeah.
The story is it never even got to her. And then someone said, Ms. Arthur doesn't do cartoons. And that was the end of the conversation.
Wow.
Later on, someone says to B. Arthur, oh, it's so crazy that you were up for Ursula. And she's like, what? Like, oh, and your people said you don't do cartoons, or you wouldn't want to be a witch. She's like, and she was not happy about it. She was pissed. She would have been amazing. It sounds like her anyway.
Good. It does sound like her.
It's Pat Carroll who's awesome, and Ursula is just such a great villain.
She is so good. And you know what's funny about that story is I've always felt that in Cinderella, the wicked stepmother looks just like B. Arthur.
Oh my God, totally. I never thought of that.
Yeah, I always felt that.
Oh my God. That's so true.
Mm. All right, so what movie were we talking about?
Little Mermaid. You know the inspiration for Ariel's face. We know this, right? Alyssa Milano.
Yes, I did know that. And just getting back to that, like the animation part of it, and I know we talked about it a little bit already, but I did feel like the faces, like you said something about,
Ariel's face isn't quite consistent from scene to scene.
But I felt like the faces were lacking a lot of detail in most of the faces.
Yeah, it didn't bother me though.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And again, I think I'm looking at it differently because I'm so used to now watching something like Frozen, a Beauty and the Beast, or something that has, like, it's really known for the artistry and the animation, and I'm looking at it through those eyes, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm noticing because it really felt more like a cartoon, whereas something like Beauty and the Beast, you feel like you're watching like a stage show.
I agree. Is it the... no, because you referenced another underwater movie.
Well, Finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo, yeah. But remembering that movie is a bit later.
Yes.
But is it the underwater element?
I don't even think that's what it is, because that was actually one of the positives for me, is I did feel like the underwater stuff was beautiful and vibrant, and maybe it's because it does have that cartoonish feel to it underwater anyway. All those bright colors and everything sort of looks animated in reality. If you go underwater, if you go scuba diving, it looks animated. So I think that it almost looked more authentic.
Yeah.
The underwater scenes.
That's interesting. I think, again, we talk about this so often on this, but it's like the nostalgia is sort of over. I will say though that you mentioned this. I love this movie anyway.
Yes, you do.
I hadn't seen it in a while, though, truly. I hadn't seen it in, God, I would say about 20 years. But I used to love this movie, and it, Part of Your World is my karaoke go-to song. And
even without karaoke, you sing.
That's true. I'll sing it on request. But really quick about Part of Your World. I never noticed this until I saw Little Shop of Horrors on Broadway, and that Part of Your World is almost identical to Somewhere That's Green.
Interesting.
Yeah, like at the end when she's like, "Which part of your world?" It's like, "Somewhere that's green, part of your world." And it's that last, like, say 30, 40 seconds they're almost identical.
Wow.
But,
and you know what's funny too, speaking of music, that the chef song, the sing, when he's cutting up the fish and stuff like that, that sounds a lot like Be Our Guest.
Yes, it does. You know who the voice of the chef is? Renee.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. I saw him in the credits and I thought, wow.
I thought he was Grimsby. Because that would have been a perfect Grimsby, right? He looks like Grimsby.
What was I going to say? Oh, so it's funny that you're talking about like the sexuality and all this kind of stuff throughout the whole movie. One of my notes that I wrote down is that I felt like this movie was definitely geared towards kids. Which is funny. It's kind of completely opposite of what you were talking about with the sexuality. And the reason why I say that is I'm watching it and it seemed like, and again, it seems like everything out of my mouth is like a criticism of this movie. And I apologize. I did find it entertaining.
Yeah.
Not one of my favorites, but it was entertaining. I found that the dialogue and the reactions and the characters, they were all sort of silly. Mm-hmm. And fun and, that sort of thing. Like, Ursula obviously is a little different. The shark was a little scary. But I think, in general, all the other things were sort of silly. And now, when you're watching a movie, and I don't know when this kind of started, probably close to this movie, probably around the 80s and 90s. But now when you're watching a Disney movie, there's so much directed at adults.
Adults, yeah.
There's so much humor and scenes and little things that, only an adult would pick up. And I think it's because of, like, the video age where, okay, now people are bringing movies home and they're watching it over and over again and it has to be entertaining for the adults or they're not going to want to keep watching it, that sort of thing. I think that was the reasoning behind it. But I found that was pretty glaring. Like, this was not a movie with adults in mind, I don't think. I think this movie was made for kids, like 100%.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot of, say, things that would go under the radar for, like, kids. Like, where there's something for adults. I think I agree with that.
I can't even think of anything that way.
No. I mean, I don't know. Well, I mean, there's like Ursula's song. She says, like, she's gonna say bitch, but she says witch. Like, it's very clearly she's about to say bitch. She's like, they weren't kidding when they called me, well, a witch. Like, and so there's like little things, but there's not enough. I agree. It's not enough really to sustain, like, to say, like, this is a movie that adults will get a little kick out of. But,
so maybe I was missing a little bit of that aspect. Because a lot of it I felt was kind of thin. Like, I thought, like, the dialogue and obviously the storyline itself, I felt it was a bit thin.
Yeah. Well, like, although I did appreciate Ariel's sarcasm when she's like, why don't you go tell my father? You're good at that.
That was great. That was great.
Yeah.
That was like one of my favorite lines from her.
When Sebastian says
something.
Someone ought to nail that girl's fins to the floor.
Yeah, and you know what? If I was her parent, I would absolutely have nailed her stupid fins.
Would you have crashed the cavern?
No, I actually wrote, Triton may have overreacted a wee bit. But as a parent, you get so frustrated. He has told her time and time again, do not go to the surface. Yeah. Don't go to the freaking surface.
But Daddy, I love him.
The words aren't even out of his mouth, and she's up at the surface again. Like, that is just plain old rebellion. She's not listening. Like, what else is a parent supposed to do?
Maybe he helped her just to get rid of her.
And he's a single parent.
Yeah.
Dealing with this. He has 7 children. And she's just not even... She's not rational. She doesn't even... It's like... it's unbelievable. Like, she can get what she's looking for. I understand she's obsessed with the human life or whatever, right? She can get what she's looking for in these shipwrecked little things. Like, she doesn't have to go to the surface for that.
She's a brat. She's rebellious.
She's not a good listener at all. And at one point I said, Triton absolutely has a point, and I would be really mad too. And but she's just not a good little daughter at all.
No. I do think I do love that scene though when she's like all like being whatever, and suddenly she's yelling at Triton, and she's like, "But Daddy, I love him!" And like she like instantly recoils, like she's shocked that she said it, and she hides behind the statue.
Yeah,
and he's like, "No!" Oh my god! Like that. I remember like the first time I actually watched it, I was like, "Oh my god!" Like that's a lot of drama
a lot
of like good voice acting, and it's still, even when I watched it now, it was like that Triton. It's Kenneth Mars, who we just watched What's Up Doc, that Matt told us, right? Yeah. That the same actor, and I think that's a really good voice acting performance of Triton, to have to be like this almost like reluctantly angry dad because he doesn't want to ruin his relationship with his daughter, but there has to be rules.
Yeah. And I'm really glad that they had that one scene where he was like, Emma, was I being too hard on her?
Yeah.
Because he was regretting it, and then she goes to the surface again. And I think that's why he blew his lid, because he was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Now that we talk about this, I wonder if that's also, like I said before, like part of why he was like, you know what? Get out of here. Like, now I'm fine letting her go to the surface because she's too much work.
Yeah, and I thought it was kind of interesting that, like, he made the decision before even asking her. Like, at the end, like, they're not even having a conversation. He's like, oh, all right, I'll make her a human. Blink. Like, she doesn't even know what's going to hapen. Like, why don't you ask her? Do you still want to be a human after all of this?
Because he knew he could change her back if he wanted. I will say this: the Flotsam and Jetsam. One thing that really struck me now, not so much then, but now, it's like I just read they really need to work on their delivery. I mean, they are so sleazy and smart. Like, to me, it's like, no, you would be. If you were a 16-year-old mermaid, you'd be afraid of them. I don't think you'd be like, oh, tell me more. Like, I don't think you'd be, like, all excited by this opportunity. If they had, like, maybe more of a good cop, bad cop relationship, but they're both so slithery and
that's a good idea, Ryan.
Oh, maybe I'll rewrite it.
Yeah.
But it's like, but because their delivery is so, like, mysterious, that there's nothing good will come of this.
Yeah.
And she should have known better.
She should never have gone with them. Oh my god, so scary. And quickly. So this is another one of those plays that Emily was in. She was.
Who was she?
She was. So they had Scuttle had some friends with, like, some seagull friends in the play, and she was like the main friend, which was fun. But she had a lot of Scuttle's lines, and she was able to do. Did he have that song? Oh, he didn't even have a song in this, did he? Scuttle.
No, he didn't.
No, they had a song about, oh my god, why can't I think of the name? Anyway, human stuff.
Cute.
And they talk about
all the different words. Yeah.
But she had a lot of lines in that, and she enjoyed that.
Oh, that's cute. Should we take a break?
Let's take a break.
All right.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
Hey there, it's Brian and Christina. We just wanted to take this break to thank you for listening to Old Roommates, the only podcast that revisits pulp culture through a middle-aged lens. Please subscribe to Old Roommates on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And give us a rating or review while you're there.
And if you have any questions, comments, or observations, shoot us an email at oldroommatespod@gmail.com. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Old Roommates. Thanks for listening, and now, back to the show. And we're back talking about The Little Mermaid, the 1989 huge hit. Really quick, a little bit of trivia. Jeffrey Katzenberg didn't have a lot of faith in this movie in the beginning. He thought it would just be a girls' movie. Mm-hmm. He put a lot of money behind Oliver and Company. Do you remember that movie?
Oh, yeah, sure.
And what ended up happening was, as the Little Mermaid was finishing up, he liked more and more what he was singing. He was very excited by it. And Little Mermaid went on to make over 64% of what Oliver and Company made.
Wow.
Went on to win 2 Oscars for Under the Sea and the musical score.
Wow.
And then some original casting, like they wanted Jim Carrey for Prince Eric, which would have been funny.
That's weird.
And then Bill Maher for Scuttle, but it was Buddy Hackett.
Yeah, and he was a good choice.
Oh, and he was great.
That's kind of interesting. Let's talk about the songs a little bit.
If I were to pick my favorite, you know my favorite is Part of Your World, and I think my second favorite might be Poor Unfortunate Souls. At the same time, I appreciate that Under the Sea one because it's so heavy. There's so
it's
many
definitely more of like a
words.
production number.
Yes.
I mean, that's a good number for sure. My favorite is definitely Poor Unfortunate Souls.
Yeah.
And I also really like Kiss the Girl.
Okay.
I think that's a fun, it's a little different. It's a little different vibe. And I kind of liked the visual aspect of it with all like the different animals and, swamp creatures making the music and stuff. I think that was kind of fun. I liked that one. But it's good music.
Yeah.
Good music.
I think Poor Unfortunate Souls is so good because it has to do a lot. It has to establish, there's some storytelling involved, but also it has to be very persuasive enough for Ariel to sign this contract.
Yeah.
And it's just done so well, where Ursula, there are parts of the song where Ursula's talking and singing very fast to sort of, confusing Ariel and also saying, like, listen, I have very satisfied customers, but you also run the risk. There's something at stake here, and I think it's such a great song. It
is a great song, and actually, it's been redone a couple of times. But one of the ones I'm looking for the woman's name, and I can't remember. I can't see what it is now. But it's from the Descendants. Actually, it's from the Descendants 2. It's not actually in that movie, but the Descendants 2. I don't know if you know anything about it, but it's these movies are basically like the children and grandchildren of like these Disney princesses and villains.
Oh, funny.
So Ursula's daughter Uma is in it, and it's actually really kind of cool.
Yeah.
Kind of teen. It's like a
what
teen.
Is it?
It's not a cartoon.
Oh.
It's on Disney Plus.
Oh, okay.
It's live action or whatever, and it's definitely like geared towards teens.
Okay.
Or preteens.
I don't have Disney Plus, so that'll never happen. But
I actually have. If you want to borrow it, you can borrow it. I would recommend it. Anyway, good music. It's a musical, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, Ursula's daughter, Uma, is in it, and on the soundtrack, she does a version of Poor Unfortunate Souls, and it's really good. It's like obviously a more modern take on it. It's really, really good. Anyway, that's that. So, and to your point earlier, I still don't think that it's a boys' movie. I don't think many boys are going to like it.
Oh, he said it's a girls' movie. Yeah, it's a girls' movie. Oh, so you're saying is you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I think he was worried because he thought it was just
yes, that's right. Yeah.
But he didn't, I guess he underestimated the power of girls.
Yeah, that's right.
Girl power.
That was the whole point. That's right.
So the end, I thought it was interesting that Scuttle hears that the prince is getting married, and Ariel's like, oh, yay!
She thinks it's her.
She thinks it's her. So, again, she doesn't even need to be asked. She's just going to show up and be married, I guess. No one even, she doesn't even occur to her that she's going to be asked, or she could say no, or she wants to marry him, or whatever. So weird. So weird.
Yeah.
And then Ursula as, like, the new woman, right? The bride.
Yeah. Did
you gasp when she kicked the dog?
Yeah, but you know what I was waiting for though, and do you remember? Did you ever see the version where the priest gets an erection? So it was like this snuck in moment where as they're approaching the priest gets a little erection.
Oh my God.
And I know, and it's not in the platinum version of the DVD, but you can find it online. You can find it very easily.
I wonder if it's in my version.
But it's kind of weird and noticeable, and it's like something that they like snuck in. It's like in The Lion King how sex was written in the clouds.
Yes.
And all that. And then even with The Little Mermaid, there was also like on the movie poster, the parents complained because they said one of the towers looked like a penis.
Oh, I remember that.
So
I remember that.
I think because this was, but I'm telling you, it all boils up into that like the weird sexualness of these characters.
One of those animators.
Yeah. Had a little too much power and had some issues. Yeah. Or maybe they were like, or maybe it was like, you know what, I wish I was working on Oliver and Company and not this girl movie, so I'm going to add some dirty stuff.
Sexual as possible.
But so, again, I stick by what I said before. I do think Ariel made the wrong decision. And I say this as a middle-aged man now. It's like, I think that, to your point, they haven't even they haven't spoken. No. She is young. Like, now she has all of these other mer people coming back from their poor unfortunate souldom. And it's like...
Well, she didn't have a choice. They didn't ask. They didn't ask her if she wanted to continue to get married. She didn't ask if she wanted to be human. They just made... The boys made the decision for her.
Wow.
That's what happened.
And she just went right along with it.
Yeah. She probably didn't even know she had a choice.
Poor Ariel.
You know, maybe this is more of like a movie about an enslaved mermaid.
Well, you had a really interesting point about the voice. Like,
yeah,
women with no voice. Yeah, interesting.
This could be remade into a pretty dark movie.
Well, the book is dark, right? Because you know that ends. But is it time for questions?
I think it is.
Do you have a question? I have no other notes. I mean, but bottom line...
The only... Okay, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you, so more, less, or about the same? Like, than then? Oh, my God.
I know, it's really tough for me. I guess I liked it a little bit more, only because I don't think I ever really watched it full from beginning to end before.
Interesting.
And I didn't realize it until like last night, but and I guess I appreciated all of those different scenes a little bit more. So I guess I think I liked it a little more. Yeah,
I'm gonna say I like it like exactly the same. I still think I really do think the songs, so many like great songs. I think as much as like say this like the sexualness, the hyped up sexuality, and the illustrations of some of these characters is a little disconcerting. I do find it to be a very entertaining movie.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. So do you have?
Well, I have a question, but you know what? I'm not sure if it's going to be good for you. Because I'm not sure what you've seen, because it has to do more about Disney movies in general.
That's okay.
So, I'm not sure what you've seen.
Well, we'll see.
All right, so here's the question.
All right.
And I can just throw it out there. I think this could be a question
on Facebook
too, off the Facebook poll. So, we all know that Ariel's not a great role model for children.
Oh, God.
Little girls.
Okay.
But, it's not that bad. So, who do you think, and I have a multiple choice, or you could just throw one out there too if you want. Who do you think is the best role model for young girls in the Disney franchise?
Mm-hmm.
And I have three choices here. One is Belle from Beauty and the Beast. The second one is Rapunzel from Tangled. Mm-hmm. And then the third one is Elsa from Frozen. Have you seen all of them?
Yep.
Oh, good. Good for you.
Yeah, I don't quite get so many... So, really quick, I want to acknowledge a couple of people. Brittany. Hi, Brittany. She is very mermaid-centric.
Hello,
yeah,
Brittany.
I know. I know she's excited to hear this. Ryan. Love it. Has been wanting us to do Little Mermaid.
Great suggestion, Ryan.
But I will say, our friend, my friend Scott Edwards I remember he was when he was like, Brian, you haven't seen Tangled? You haven't seen... And Tangled is really, really beloved.
Oh my gosh, I love Tangled.
And I just don't get the thrill of it. I was like, okay, fine. But Belle, from Beauty and the Beast, I saw Beauty and the Beast in the movie theater. I love Belle. I think she's so book smart. She wants more, but she's realistic. I think she fights for her dad, but I also think like she tries to make the most of her situation, and she's very aware, and I think she's very bright, and she's a fighter, and she can see past things for who people really are. For example, Gaston is hot, but he's a jerk.
It's the opposite effect, right? It's the opposite effect as Ariel.
That's right.
Because he's cute.
Yeah, Ariel fills in a lot of blanks when someone's cute.
Mm-hmm.
It's an unhealthy thing to do.
All right, so let me just write down what I think you'll say.
Ah! I already...
Yeah, you know what's funny? Quick story about Belle and Beauty and the Beast. Yeah. We were watching it with Emily when she was a baby. Oh, not a baby, whatever, 6 or 7 or whatever. And we're watching it, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time. And
Beauty and the Beast?
Yeah.
I didn't know that about you.
Oh my god, I love it.
Okay.
Love it. But we're watching it, and we had this conversation about Gaston.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's not very nice or whatever, that kind of thing. And I think I asked like who she would like or whatever. I don't know. Some sort of conversation about that. And I'm like, yeah, he's really not that very nice. She's like, no. But he's so handsome. And I'm like, oh my god, you're missing the whole point.
Wait, is this live action or the animated?
The animated.
The animated, yeah. Because he's cute in the live action one. I actually like the live action Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, it was great.
I thought that was really done well.
Oh, that was a great remake, for sure. Yeah, and Elsa, I think, is just a terrible one.
Yeah, I don't
terrible.
Get it. I don't quite get it.
But I do like Rapunzel because she takes things on herself. Like, she kind of takes the situation in hand. She kind of decides, she wants to see what's going on out there, and she makes the plan. She's, like, really smart.
Yeah.
And then she can take care of herself, even though she has the guy with her,
mm-hmm.
Flint Rider. She doesn't really necessarily need him.
That is a cute part of that movie. Yeah. I appreciated that part. Yeah.
She has the frying pan, like that's her weapon throughout the whole movie. It's so good. It's very cute.
Okay, so I have to bring another character in because there's not enough for an FMK, so we're going to do a fuck, marry, kill.
Oh, I had one but that's okay.
Oh, really?
That's okay.
So I'm doing Triton.
Okay.
Eric. Prince Eric. And then I was going to bring in Gaston, actually.
Oh. It's not bad. Okay. Well, yeah, I brought in other princesses, I suppose. It's fine. So, FMK...
I'm writing this down for you now. All right.
Okay. All right, I got it.
Okay.
All right, I'm marrying Triton.
Mm-hmm.
I'm effing Gaston. I knew you were going to be surprised about that. And I'm killing Eric. Eric is like... I don't find him attractive. I don't think he's a well-developed character. He's clearly, like, I don't know.
So you answered the way I would have answered,
mm-hmm.
and I just was thinking that you would be, I don't know, that Gaston would just be a turn off. For exactly the reason...
Oh, I wouldn't want to have any kind of conversation with him or anything, but that's not what we're talking about. But he clearly has been around. I bet he's really good at what he does. Real quick, I know. Yeah. We've said real quick. I want to count how many times we've said real quick. Real quick. We went to Disney when Emily was 3, and we met Ariel and Prince Eric.
Huh.
And I have to show you this picture. It's so funny. There's a picture. First of all, there's a picture of Matt with Ariel, which is kind of hilarious. But aside from that, there's a picture with them, and Prince Eric, he's just, I mean, I wouldn't say, like, inappropriate, but I'll post it on the site, I think.
Oh, yeah, funny. Okay.
But it's, the way he's, like, hugging, he's just...
Wait, hugging who? Ariel?
No, Emily. He's just like hugging her like, oh, I will never let you go.
Oh.
Like not in a perverted way, but
Yeah.
like in a like
a bit too convincing.
like yeah, too
committed.
Like
Yeah.
too committed.
Yeah.
It's actually quite funny. We kind of laughed about
That's
that.
funny.
Yeah.
Was she wearing a red wig at the time?
No, but Ariel was right next to her. So
It's just inappropriate.
So.
So you answered the way I was going to answer.
Yeah.
I think Triton is a good guy and, again, very handsome and have fun to live under the sea. Eric he's just a nothing. It's unfortunate. He's
He's
cute.
a poor,
but who cares?
unfortunate soul.
And Gaston, I think I would get it. I think I would find him entertaining with his self-love to a point. But then I'd be like, all right, let's get this over with.
Although maybe he isn't going to be that good because if he's just all into him.
True.
He's still going to be better than Eric, though.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I guess that's it.
That was it. And that is it for us and for this episode of Old Roommates. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to Old Roommates on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And give us a rating or review while you're there, please.
If you have an idea for the show or a suggestion or comment, you can email us at oldroommatespod@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Old Roommates. This is Christina.
And this is Brian.
Thanks again for listening. Until next time.